Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. It seems almost mystical. A person has long suffered, for example, from overeating, or substance abuse, or anger issues, or laziness, or spending too much. And then suddenly, poof, the person changes. Not incrementally, not in baby steps, but all at once. It's tempting for me to credit my advising them as what caused it, but that rarely has much to do with it. It's more often was one of the following, and maybe if I describe them to you, it may help you drop your bad habit. First is, it's at random. I ask clients who've made major changes what made it happen, and the most common response, they don't know. For example, they say, I don't know, it just suddenly felt doable. My hypothesis is that it's the subconscious accretion of multiple factors that made him do it. And it's multiple factors, for example, falling in love. Infatuation can make everything seem more doable. And additionally, the person who's falling in love wants to make a good impression on their special someone, as the current term is, the inclusive term. Another of the factors that could make someone want to suddenly spark and make a big change and drop a bad habit is having a child. On getting pregnant, many women have stopped smoking or using drugs when they previously felt they couldn't, because they couldn't bear to think that they'd be damaging their baby. Or the mother stops later, knowing that if the child sees the parent smoking, drinking, or doing drugs, the child's more likely to. Another spark for people dropping a bad habit is that when a loved one has died. A death makes us aware that we too are on life's all too short conveyor belt, and that maybe it's time to grow up, for example, start a real career. Of course, sometimes if the deceased person is around our age, the death may motivate us to be more hedonistic. Hey, life's short, let's eat dessert first. Another trigger for a major change or dropping a bad habit is that you've lost your job. When that sparks a major improvement, the client typically says, oh, losing the job is for the best, and to prove it, as well as to quell the fear that they're a permanent loser, they make that big change that they've been procrastinating. Like, for example, developing a good work ethic or being low maintenance when they hadn't been before. Another spark or trigger for dropping a bad habit is an insight. Often a person thinks and thinks and thinks to try to come up with a rationale that motivates them to change, to drop their bad habit, and sometimes they finally come up with one. For example, an overweight client, after his daily exercise hike, would take him out for a big meal as a reward. Well, one day it somehow popped into his head that the hike had to be its own reward. And as a result, I can't say he never goes out to eat, but he's going out to eat less often. Another possible trigger for dropping a bad habit is what I call a big last straw. Well, with Thanksgiving coming up, I'm reminded of a heavy drinker who made a fool of herself, including vomiting, at last year's family Thanksgiving dinner. Disgusted with herself, she said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. She hasn't had a drink since, but I should say she's also enrolled in Smart Recovery, which is an alternative to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's based on cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's also a group thing. Another common trigger for dropping a bad habit or making a major change is what I call, I'll show them. The psychology literature recommends praise over criticism, yet the spark for many of my suddenly improving clients was a criticism. For example, I don't think you're smart enough to do that. I wouldn't say that, but somebody said that, a spouse, parent, whatever, or an employer. But sometimes the criticism that sparks them is subtler. I recall a 55-year-old smoker who was walking down the street, and a neighbor said, oh, it's good that you're staying active. Well, that implied to the person that the neighbor viewed her as old. And knowing that smoking causes wrinkling, the least of its liabilities, that somehow made her stop smoking cold turkey. And finally, advice can sometimes trigger a dropping a bad habit or a major change. Every once in a while, a counselor's kindly or tough-minded suggestion can provide the spark. I had a client who was a smoker, and I asked, people stop smoking for a reason that resonates with them, and I ticked off a number of possible reasons. The one that worked? Smoking is no longer seen as sexy. Anyway, do you have a bad habit that you've been wanting to drop? If so, might any of the aforementioned be your spark? In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. Feel free to give this a thumbs up, or if needed, a thumbs down. Write a comment. Hit the share button and share on your social media, and or subscribe to my channel. And in any event, I do appreciate you watching. I am Marty Nemko.